So here we are
So
again. Gosh,
We'll see
another
that
week. It's flown by 100 miles an hour. What's going on? Who knows?
God,
It's
lots
amazing.
happened this week, haven't we? Everyone's falling out over vaccines, and oh dear Lord.
But we're still managing to get those vaccines out there, so that's always really encouraging. Always good to see. Always good to see. There's always opportunities. There's always great things to come out of adversity. Cool.
Exactly.
Somebody wise must have said that once, because it certainly wasn't me. But I think that's really interesting because go on.
Speaking of wise, I this week I've been speaking to a very wise lady who you may know.
Very, very wise. She's probably listening to this. So yes, definitely wonderful woman. My good lady wife, Lucy. Yes, absolutely. You had the opportunity to have a chat with her. What did you have a chat with her about? Not that I do know, because we do speak. For the listeners.
Yeah. So I was chatting to Lucy. So the last couple of weeks we've been talking about readiness levels, plans, haven't we? And we've been encouraging people to go and use our customer ready checker. And one business that is a business that Lucy's been working with. They're an online, amongst other things, they sell pet products online. Soul Destiny, and I wanted to talk to Lucy from kind of our perspective of how, as a customer experience director at Insight 6, she's really helping them. They're currently, as I said, in the awareness zone, move out of that awareness zone, into the light of the breakthrough zone. And here's what she said. Okay, good afternoon, Lucy. Thank you for joining our R&R family for our podcast for episode. This is our 42nd episode, I think we're doing now. So great to have you with us. So for all our listeners and viewers, Lucy is the better half of Rich. So Rich is normally sat opposite me, but Lucy is the better half. He's going to talk to me today. But the reason we're talking to Lucy today is Lucy's going to share with us an online business that she's working with that have really begin to fly over the pandemic, in terms of their sales and how they're continuing to focus keep their feet on the ground and focus on the customer. So Lucy, tell us a little bit about the business and how you got involved.
Yeah, I have shut Rich in the cupboard, Brian, so hopefully he won't cause us too many problems.
Excellent. Good.
So the business is called Soul Destiny, and they're a family business based in the Wiltshire countryside, actually not too far away from us. And they are online retail, and it's specifically online retail, and it's centered around their belief that exercise and outdoor living is good for the soul. So it's called Soul Destiny. And they also have a sister brand called Soul Pet. And I'm sure they would say it's not a happy accident, but actually what has happened to those guys since the beginning of the pandemic is that because of the areas that they focus on, because they sell everything for pets, they sell kind of meditation and yoga products, everything that's good for the soul. They sell alpaca, luxury socks and homewares.
Wow.
I know, it's lovely. Accessories, so beautiful home accessories that are ethically sourced, that sort of stuff. And because they sell products within these areas, their main challenge during COVID has been this rapid expansion and how they manage that. And that was, I joined to help them within their business just before Christmas. And that's where I am with them now, just helping them to almost take their heads out of the day-to-day operational delivery, which, because they're a small business, they're so focused on, and they're so passionate about customer experience and customer service levels, that to be able to look up above the parapet and focus on the future stuff has been really challenging for them.
So this is a sort of almost a classic example, isn't it? I hate using the word winners and losers during the pandemic, but it's used a lot in the media, isn't it? But this is clearly a business that has had a great product and brand that's been online, and because of the way in which the lockdowns have panned out, it's forced everybody into sort of different behaviors, isn't it? And they've obviously been a recipient of selling those products and services for that need. which is really interesting. And I love the whole ethically sourced, you know, the brand having a real soul. That sounds fantastic. So how did you get involved? How did you, and I suppose more than that, once you've got involved, what has surprised you most about kind of their customer buying habits, and you know what they you know, what sells and what doesn't sell, and what consumers are interested in at the minute?
I think the biggest thing that I've noticed is the emotional connection to what they sell. In fact, I was there with them yesterday, and they had received an email, a thank you email from a customer. One of the main products that they sell is vet bedding. That's kind of vet recommended, and they sell it to private customers, but they also sell it to trade. So they sell it to vets and pet referral centres, that sort of stuff. And this lady had bought a piece of vet bedding for her new 8.5-week-old puppy, who I happen to know is called Bruce, because she told me. And she sent us a lovely photograph of Bruce enjoying his bed. And that, for me, when I look in their, you know, in their CRM systems, I look through all of their client reviews and all of the feedback that they receive, whether or not it's about presents and gifts that they've sent, you know, home accessories, or whether it's pet products, it's all about the passion, and it's that emotional connection that we talk to our clients about all the time. And they are passionate responders to that. So they don't just see the reviews come in and kind of sit back and pat themselves on the back. They respond to them, and they build this connection with their customers. And I think, for me, that's been the most noticeable thing that I've picked up on.
So you mentioned earlier that their exponential growth that they've had in the last 12 months has meant they've been kind of in the weeds a bit, and focused on the operation. What have you done with them as an organisation to really help them sort of lift their heads up and think about their clients? Because it's clear they've got a great client rapport, and they've got clearly good client relationships, which is of course half the battle. And Rich and I have spoken a number of times about businesses on the customer experience pendulum, and you know, those that are really customer centered being ahead of that pendulum swing. But often we see that, you know, businesses, when they go into stress and they go into operation mode, they kind of slip back and they become quite reactive and having to. So what's been your role in getting their heads out of the weeds?
I think the main thing has been a fresh pair of eyes. But I think a fresh pair of eyes also coupled with their mindset. I think that's the biggest thing, because, you know, it's all very well coming in and being a fresh pair of eyes, but if all of your observations and your recommendations kind of land on deaf ears, and no action is driven from that, then it's useless. So I think fresh pair of eyes. I think probably the experience that we have at Insight 6 as a customer experience kind of specialist organisation, and our understanding of the fact that commercial growth is directly related to the experience you provide your customers, and being able to demonstrate to them and talk to them about the customer journeys that they have. And, you know, if we're setting up new trade customer accounts, what does that feel like as a new trade customer? What's that onboarding process? That sort of stuff. And I think helping them to organise that and to look at the processes and to identify the things that might cause friction, or you know, might stop that process from being seamless through the eyes of the customer, has been really important. And I think a fresh pair of eyes on the business has probably been the biggest help in that.
So what would you advise sort of our listeners, and you know, people that you know that might be in the weeds themselves, you know, in that operational process? You know, we know that the roadmap out of lockdown is you know, we've got a roadmap, but you know, we don't really know if the government are going to stick to it, because it's, you know, data not date. So what would your advice to businesses that are quite operationalized and they're not really looking ahead, and they're not really focused on, you know, what the business is going to look like in 6 months' time? What would you advise them to do?
I think you just said it in those words when you said data not dates. I think the most critical thing, if organisations do nothing else right now, to help them to inform their roadmap for the future, whether that is just the near future, or whether they're looking into the longer term. Ask your customers what they feel. Talk to them. Ask them, literally, whether you're asking them on a product level what they want to see, what is missing from your range, whether you want to ask them on a service level, or whether you want to really involve them heavily in the expansion of your business and allow your customers to shape the decisions that you make, so that when you come to the point where you are expanding, you're doing it from a place where your expansion plans are based on the evidence, they're based on the feedback that you've been given. I think that would be my biggest recommendation, is don't make assumptions, ask people. People are really happy to tell you what they think and feel.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's a great tip. What if one final question, what have you learned from being involved with such an exciting business going through exponential growth?
Oh God, I have learned so much about what goes on, the challenges that those businesses experience at the back end. We focus so much on looking at things through the customer's eyes, that actually things like the processes that they have to put in place to be able to sell their products through different platforms. They sell their products through their website, they sell them on eBay, Amazon, Etsy, OnBuy, loads of different platforms. And actually, just on a day-to-day basis, trying to manage all of those different platforms who themselves have different processes and different customer SLAs, service level agreements, different things to manage. There is so much, and actually it's made me almost look at things slightly differently when I'm a customer, is that if something doesn't arrive exactly the day that it says it's going to arrive, do I need to get all uppity about that as a customer? Or actually, it's probably made me be a little bit more mindful of the challenges that businesses face. And one of the things that made me think about that was some of the delivery challenges that I saw them having with Royal Mail through the pandemic. And trying their very hardest to manage and respond to customers when people are phoning to ask where their parcels are. If it's been dispatched from the person you bought it from, but it's somewhere in between your house and them, there's very little that they can do about that. Of course, there's ways and means that you can manage that messaging. I get that, and they're really good at that. But I think it's probably made me be a slightly more patient customer and consumer.
It's a really interesting take, isn't it? Because I think what you're describing there is the key point you mentioned is absolutely about managing the expectation of the client, so the client knowing, the customer knows when something's arriving. But no, that's great, really good. How do people find this fabulous brand? Just remind us what they're called. They're
called Soul Destiny.
Yeah.
If people are looking for pet products, their sister brand is Soul Pet. But if they go to the Soul Destiny website, they can access all of the Soul Pet products through there as well. I would really recommend people to go and have a look. The website is something that is going to be developed as well. This is another thing that we're looking at in terms of the customer journey. But yeah, I would thoroughly recommend people to go and have a little look.
Fantastic. Lucy, it's been great to speak to a different Knight today.
Nice talking to you. It's nice to get the opportunity to actually talk, Ryan, rather than being shut away.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah, take care. Speak to you soon.
Wise words from Luce. Absolutely. You can tell who the brains are out of in our Insight 6 franchise, can't you? Yeah.
Well, I didn't like to say, but
I do, as I'm told, quite clearly. But yeah, really, really great to hear. And obviously, we've spoken a number of times about Soul Destiny and the work that Lucy's doing with them. But it's really great to be able to share that with listeners and viewers of our humble little podcast. Yeah, and so I think one of the key things to sort of come out of that is the opportunities. And I mentioned that at the start of the podcast today. There's opportunities out there in terms of the adversity that we find ourselves in, and the pivot word. You know, people have been changing or not even changing, but providing the right things at the right time. And clearly Soul Destiny have got something going really well now. You know, it's started to pick up because people wanting to do, you know, buy something nice for whether it's the pet or whether it's for themselves, and the yoga side of things and all those things. And it's really interesting that they clearly have got a passion. And this is where, as an organization, Insight 6 can really help out, is when organizations like Soul Destiny clearly have a passion for what they do, you know, and they've clearly got this emotional connection with their customers, hearing about Bruce the dog and all those really exciting things like that. You know, it's demonstrating that this customer experience stuff that we warbles on about all the time, it really does need to be something that businesses are focused on, because if it's just a tick box exercise, don't bother. You know, if you're out there listening to this and you're thinking, yeah, we must do some feedback, but we're not sure what we're going to do with it or whether we're going to bother changing anything, then great advice from us is just, yeah, don't bother, because you're probably not ready. But the Soul Destiny guys seem to be in that awareness zone, so they're sort of ready to go to the next step, and it's been great to see, you know, hear what Lucy's been working with them on at the time.
Yeah, look, I think yeah, the really exciting thing about listening to what Lucy said was, you know, she when she got involved, you know, their business had gone off like a rocket because of the lockdown, and they almost went, didn't they, into this kind of operational mode of, you know, coping with all the deliveries and, you know, just focusing on trying to look after their customers from an operational perspective. But what I thought was really interesting with what Lucy said was, you know, she's had to make them kind of stand back, get their heads out of the weeds, look up, look ahead, start thinking about, you know, what's next, and, you know, how they continue to look after their customer strategy by being really focused on what's working really well now, but what are they going to focus on in the future as well. So, you know, that as you say, that fresh pair of eyes, that's somebody looking at something differently in a way that is gives you the ability to be able to step back and go, hang on a minute, yeah, we are, you know, we're just dead focused on getting the work done, we're not thinking ahead. It is really important, because it can be quite dangerous. You know, if you're in the weeds and you're not, you know, your head is down, you can't see what's coming down the tubes that can knock you off course.
No, absolutely. Yeah, and it is that sort of that other perspective, isn't it? You know, it's that standing outside of that area where you normally operate. So when we're in the middle of it, we can't see certain things outside the peripheral vision from a business point of view. And we're, you know, I'm sure a lot of people listening are either running their own businesses or leading businesses, and it can often be the case, unless you've got time to step back and actually take a good look, then it can be, as you say, quite dangerous not to do that. So from our point of view in Insight 6, you know, our ability to be able to come in and say, right, okay, we're going to give you some third-party perspective on this, and we're going to provide it via your customers as well as ourselves as standing on the side there, because there is a critical link between what we're doing and your commercial growth. And I think that's the one thing that we need to remember when we talk customers, and people often think, oh, well, you know, it's nice, isn't it? It's a nice thing to do. It's not a nice thing to do. It is the thing to do. Because who pays for your product? You know, it is the customer. And we say again, you know, when you're starting to ask the questions of your customers and seek their input and their interest in your organization, they start to connect with it even more emotionally. And guess what they'll go and do? They'll go and tell more people how great you are. So the opportunities are there, and it's being able to identify them, because there are, you know, there's a lot going on, isn't there? There is a lot, and all those different touch points that Lucy mentioned about, you know, being able to identify those and map the journey, because there's certain things when we're in the middle of it that we think, oh, well, you know, clicking on one button that isn't so obvious on a website, it's not too much of a problem, is it? Because they'll find it eventually. It won't really be an issue. I did it the other day. I couldn't work out the journey through this website, so I just binned it and I went to another one.
Yeah,
I needed something. I definitely needed the product, but where I got it from, I wasn't fussed at that point, because I wasn't that connected to the organization. So that quick reaction I had was, that's taking too long. Somebody else's go. And good or bad, that's what people's expectations are like these days, particularly online and the e-commerce piece.
It totally is. And actually, you know, using that simple, where am I at risk, am I, you know, am I aware? Am I in the breakthrough zone? It's so crucial to understand that. So yeah, absolutely. Great example of a business that are thinking about looking after their customers. So yeah, next week.
Yeah, next week you're going to be interviewing somebody else next week, aren't you? Look at two on the trot, as they say, on the bounce.
On the bounce, yes.
If you got a bit lazy, I was doing all the interviews. God, come on.
Well, you were. I did feel I needed to pull my finger. Yeah. So
who are you chatting to?
Next week we're talking to Dave Meadows. Dave is a managing director of a business called Pushed Animation, and Pushed Animation are a business, really exciting business based in Plymouth and Southampton. But Dave's going to talk to us about how animation is used to engage customers.
Nice. That'd be interesting to see how that one works. Yeah, another little bit of different perspective. You see, that's what we like to provide here. It's lovely. And also another perspective you can gather is generally through cider. We find so from down here in this country. So we're actually going to be doing a bit more of that cider and CX chatting. And we mentioned it the other week. We pushed it back until the end of April. We're having a Facebook Live session on the 29th of April. Where we'll be doing a little bit of a tour of the UK and maybe Ireland as well, getting a few of our colleagues on to chat to us about what's going on around the country, because we know obviously the West Country is the best place to be, you see, it's got lush, but it's nice to hear from our compatriots across this sceptred isles, as they're all over the place, to hear what's going on. So we'll be doing that. Yeah,
no, I'm looking forward to that. Great. Well, listen.
Cider anyway.
Have a great week. I've been Ryan Huxtable.
I've been Richard Knight. Take care and speak to you soon.